Welcome back to Bazaar. I'm Inko. There's another hotfix rolling out for Season 3 right as the weekend gets here, and it is a fantastic hotfix. There are some critically important changes happening in this patch that are going to fix a lot of my issues with the current meta, and I think a lot of people's issues with it. Let's get started with the big one. Lifesteal no longer counts as healing. This meme, courtesy of the Reddit, is an accurate summary of how Lifesteal being a heal mechanic has functioned. Logically, yes, it makes sense that Lifesteal should count as healing. The effect of it has been consistently that anything done to buff healing, which has always been weak, massively benefits lifesteal and doesn't do nearly as much for healing and ends up being problematic. So the only real solution is to divorce these mechanics and have lifesteal be its own thing that doesn't get the heal effects added to it. This is a 10 out of 10 change. It really helps open up the meta a little bit, but the second part is also necessary. The heal cleanse has been reduced in effect by half, from 10% to 5%. The Reddit's got memes about that one too. It's just too much at 10%, way too much. It makes sense that the value should be tracked to the healing you're doing, but 10% was way too much in effect. So lowering it to 5% seems like it should be a good change, but that's what I thought about 10%, and it blew up the meta. So hopefully 5% is a better slot. Hopefully this actually fixes things, because I like it tracking the heal value. I just don't like damage over time builds getting destroyed by it completely and utterly, which is the exact same problem we had previously with the old system, right? Except inverse, because previously heal builds just lost to damage over time builds because the values would get so big the heal build would just die between their items activating. So somewhere between 10% and 1%, there's got to be a number where heal cleanse makes sense, and I'm hoping 5% is the right spot. We'll have to see where it lands. Next up, this change is actually pretty damn substantial. They increased base HP gains per level after level 7. It's going to be around 11% more by level 10 and 32% more by level 15. This means that mainly weapon and burst builds are going to have a little bit harder time doing things in the late game, no matter what way you look at it. Typically, you can be level 15 on day 13, so any sort of weapon build that's falling off approaching day 13, knowing you're going to need to win that late, you're going to need to get a lot more damage for your build to actually succeed. You're going to see weapon builds struggling a little bit more in the late game than you used to. And also, my favorite change of the patch, I don't know how this happened. I had just accepted that Tempo and I don't see eye to eye about this. Level 10 and 19 now offers a choice of 2 specific enchantment pedestals. Do you know when you see the artist now? Randomly on our events. You never see the artist in a run. You see 2 enchants when you level up to 10, 2 enchants at 19, 2 enchants when you die. There is no random enchant button anymore. No bullshit where Swashbuckle only has 2 enchants, so it's insane to random it. No randoming and getting the one you saw previously. No complete lack of choice and just randoming your best item. Thank you, Tempo. I don't know how this happened because I just assumed the people in charge of the game firmly disagreed with me. But there was a ton of feedback that people hated random only. So now they're trying out my way, I suppose. Hopefully it works out better than the heal change where they tried that out my way and it was a fucking disaster. But I'm firmly of the opinion that if a system like this is problematic and creates builds that are too strong, that just means that the system has enchants that are too strong and the enchant power level is the issue. So making enchants random isn't the solution, making enchants balanced is. Anyways, I'm very happy to see this change, and honestly, this entire first line, I don't know how I feel about max health per level one way or the other, to be honest. I think I like that change, but everything in the general section is a massive W. All of this helps the game so much, in my opinion. Now, there are a bunch of bug fixes. I'm not going to be concerned with most of them, but one of them's a big deal. They fixed items that don't trigger at the end of combat, including killing blows from item destruction. So you actually have a little bit easier time meta-scaling with dinosaurs than you used to. Now, there's also another very funny bug where custom scope basically just didn't work. I have lost runs to finding that out. I transitioned from a wide weapon Vanessa to a one weapon Vanessa, and then my orange Julian simply didn't go off and the run ended. So I'm glad they made custom scope exist again. That was a painful thing for me. But let's get into the item changes. Bug fixes are just bug fixes. Tanky Anky got the change I was expecting. I was hoping that it would be something else, but I was expecting this. Not necessarily this part. Now he has scaling cooldown with tier starting at 8, going down to 5 from static 6. His damage is a little bit higher. None of that matters. It just no longer has the weapon damage reduction. It's just gone flat out. I would have preferred getting some sort of thematically appropriate thing like Angry Balloon Bots effect, maybe. Obviously not exactly, but that sort of idea. But frankly, it's so incredibly strong that it does not need another passive line. It already shield enchants every dinosaur you have. It doesn't need to do anything else. Also, shield modifier is now applied to it. During my run with Tanky Anki, I really could not tell if it was doing that or not. Apparently it wasn't, but it was supposed to. So I was right that the UI said it should, and the numbers felt pretty low. Next up, Box Cutter got a much needed nerf. Its base damage is down 15. That's not the part that matters. When you level up, it now gains 10, 20, 30, 40 damage, down from 25 to 100. Also, this is the weapon. It's a 3-second speed weapon from Stell if you haven't seen it. People are getting it from random silver tool events on a variety of different methods. And it has the permanently lose 1 damage anytime you use it text, but you use it way less than the damage it scales. And I've just been blown out by this several times. It was wildly overtuned. This looks like it's probably somewhat reasonable numbers, maybe even a little bit on the weak side, but it's a pretty fast weapon, so it's probably still not bad. Primal Core is seeing a slight reduction in space damage. Honestly, not a big deal. It's definitely a nerf. It can matter, but it's not huge. Next up, Momosaur and Dinosaur are both getting basically the same changes. Now, rather than going off depending on how many items your opponent has, it's just the first time you use them each fight. That's when they trigger their item destruction. And now they have reduced scaling, but not really. On Wednesday, when they launched the season, they actually buffed the scaling a little bit, and they're just bringing the numbers back to how they were for the entire rest of the game. Personally, I think these are really good changes. They normalize how much scaling you can get over the course of a game. They make it easier to use these guys. You don't have to worry about like how many items does each monster have specifically. And of course, they lower the top end power level of the dinosaurs. I still think dinosaurs are going to be completely cracked, and none of this changes that, but they're a little bit less cracked than they were. I like seeing incremental balance changes, and the much bigger changes were the like mechanical game system changes that happened at general. We need to see how dinosaurs fare in the new meta with some minor reasonable nerfs. Anyways, moving on to Railgun, it has been changed in scaling. It's a little bit weaker at bronze, which it needed to be because 150 with 3 tech items just automatically won on day 1. It's a little bit weaker at silver, and I don't know that it really needed that nerf, but it's not like it's going to struggle. It's still going to be great in the mid game. Actually, a little bit better at gold and very substantially better at diamond, being 33% more damage, or 200 if you want the flat number. I like this railgun change. I really appreciate that they want items to generally be not that different at bronze and diamond, but an item like railgun cannot scale from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and function the same at all points in the game. So even though it's not like following the tier normalization that they really wanted to have with a lot of items, I think this is how railgun's numbers need to look, and railgun might just be a viable late game build now. Bear in mind, they also increase late game player health, so this is actually just tracking to the new health value buffs they said you would have at level 15, so it's not all upside for railgun, right? Forklift now deals 50 damage, I assume, per item as opposed to 100, making it substantially worse. There goes like the day and a half of remotely acceptable forklift gameplay I had before I pivoted into better builds. Was forklift crazy? But I don't know that this was necessary. I think forklift's main purpose is to get transmuted into Tanky Anki or a railgun right now. If you don't know, there are 3 large bronze items for Dooley: forklift, Tanky Anki, and railgun. You know which one's getting tossed into Mandala to find the other 2, right? I don't know this needed to be nerfed. Now it's actually just transmute fodder in my eyes. Maybe I'm overestimating this. I'm confused. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me I'm sleeping on forklift and was actually OP. It might be the case. Next up, Flintstones is being brought down a lot from the early mid-game menace it was. Its cooldown is 50% higher from 4 to 6. And then on top of that, its burn scaling is actually worse at low tiers. It's down to 2 burn at bronze. It gets to the same value at silver, and it's a little bit better at higher tiers, but frankly, I've never seen a gold or diamond Flintstones on a board at all in like the 20 games I played so far this season. So I'm really not expecting Flintstones to do anything crazy here. I think this is a pretty explicit nerf, and I think Flintstones is maybe a card that needed a nerf, but not the cooldown nerf. Because if it were still 4 seconds, I think you could have Flintstones be a good part of a late game board just because it's fast. But at 6-second cooldown, I don't really see Flintstones being playable. Like, I could definitely pick one up at silver at the right point in a run, but I think that's all it does right now. I think it's like too narrow in its scope to be a well-designed card. Soulstone, the small quest item for Mac, is down from a 6-second cooldown to a 4-second cooldown. Having not completed the quest and howbazaar.gg not showing what the quests do yet, I literally don't know what it does, so this is a huge buff, obviously, very clearly. Notably, with a diamond pendulum and a diamond library, that goes down to 2 seconds and then throws the cooldown on something else, like the multicast quest relics. So being a 4-second cooldown item with the relic tag and Mac, kind of a big deal. But I don't know how much this matters outside of infinite combos with Mac, which is very much the bread and butter of Mac's late game where the quests really shine. Next up, all the quests have been made easier, except for, I think, the Tomb of the Ancients. Many of them are also getting buffs. Sands of Time was previously slow 1 for 1, and now it's 1 to 4 for 1, so it's actually, doing like any sort of meaningful scaling. This will absolutely shut down boards with permanent slow and some sort of infinite combo. This will really effectively turn on Magnus's Femur. It's much better than it was outside of specifically charging a different relic with it. Previously, you needed to buy 8 slow items. Now it needs to buy 6, which is a little bit easier. It needed 10 relics. Now it needs 5. Coming down to the Frost Totem, it actually has this listed as like it's changed, but I think that's the number it had previously anyway. But it does need 5 less relics to get that secondary effect now, which is huge. And its cooldown's actually gone down, which I was not expecting. And it's also a little bit incongruous because previously Sands of Time and Frost Totem had the same cooldowns, I think. I think they were both 8, 7, 6, 5. So it's weird that like the pair is different cooldowns. And also the freeze one is the lower one. This is one of the most questionable changes, I think, in this patch note. I don't know why it needed to be faster. It's already getting used in infinite combos to lock out. Also, just like game integrity, these should match each other. They're a paired set. Having different cooldowns weirds me out. But on the whole, I think all of these changes to make the quest more completable are massively beneficial. Like, you can do the quest on Mac right now, but it's so difficult and it takes so long. You very frequently just cannot get early wins because the quests just take a little bit too much time. These sorts of changes are huge. Blank Slate's quests are actually unchanged, like these criteria are the same. The difference is that its base cooldown has dropped from 6 to 5, and the values on all of these are massively increased. I don't know how its slow and freeze scaling worked previously. Now it's 1 per tier. I think it was just 1 item period previously. So these Blank Slate quests are actually really damn strong now. Additionally, it was 2 per tier for the Burn, Poison, and Regen previously. Now it's 5. Blank Slate went from complete trash, it scales up to be a bad silver item, at least you can use it in infinite combos with other relics, to, oh my god, it actually might be the best quest item. Between this and the Frost Relic, I think we're going to see Quest Freeze Mac dominate the late game right now. I did not catch this my first time through the notes. Anyways, moving on to the other quests, the Life Conduit, Idle Decay, and Eternal Torch. That's the trio of identical quest items for Burn, Poison, and Regen. All only needed to buy 8 now. That's not true. Eternal Torch actually only needs to buy 6. And if you're one of the people who are like, Burn's better than Poison though, Mac simply has a lot less Burn items than he does Poison items. But additionally, the Eternal Torch is generally much harder to use than the Idle Decay because there's so many Poison builds for Mac, but very few Burn ones. I'd say that Calcinator is really the only in-game Burn build Mac has ever had. Candles is a mid-game tempo thing. And Eternal Torch does not work well with single big Burn items like Calcinator and Fire Claws. So I think this is a really good change because like if you're playing this, you're probably trying to slam it onto a mid-game Candle sort of board, right? And take it to 10 wins on like day 11 at worst. So I think this is a really good change to make Eternal Torch a little bit easier to complete because you need to complete it quicker if this is the sort of game plan you're pursuing. There are a couple of tag changes. Friendly Doll is getting the toy tag. Plasma and Pulse Rifle is getting the tech tag. I'm so happy to see it. I don't know if there are any mechanical ramifications of those 2 tags because tech is an important type. But like for a long time, I've looked at Laser Pistol and looked at these 2 guns. I mean, like, what are we talking about? Oh, Pulse Rifle also gained tech. The first time I read this, I just read Plasma Rifle again. Yeah, Pulse Rifle gaining tech is fucking huge for Railgun. Thank God they nerfed it early, but you're not going to survive anyway. Sea Shadow's getting a slight nerf here, but this is basically just Sea Shadow slipping through the cracks. Most CDR items and skills got a slight nerf in the previous patch. The exact same thing is happening with Command Ship. It used to have a silver tier, now it doesn't. It was 10, 15, 20, now it's just 5, 10 at gold and diamond. That's a huge nerf. That's like more than CDR nerfs, but Command Ship was also probably one of the best skills in the game anyway. And it only didn't like really dominate much of the meta because so few items are vehicles, right? Back when Flagship was a main thing, this was really powerful. With Dinosaur, I think people would start seeing Command Ship determine matches again. So I think this actually did deserve a nerf on top of the general changes from CDR. Anyway, that concludes all the changes. Max quests are much easier to do. Damage over time might be back on the table. Lifesteal isn't healing. People have more health. You get to pick your enchantments again. It's been like literally half a year since we could do that. And also just like a bunch of good balance changes. I love this patch. When I was told a new patch happened, I came over and I immediately posted back in the Discord, why are the patch notes so good? Like, genuinely, these are my favorite patch notes you ever got. I think these are just, like, there's some questionable stuff involving the free stuff for Mac, But barring that, I think these changes will result in a vastly healthier metagame. Everything that's changing systematically, ignoring the specifics of card balance, is changing in a direction that I really, really like. As always, the Bazaar balance team, like, they make mistakes. They really rapidly iterate, and that makes them have a lot more mistakes than their balance teams do. But it pushes the game in a better direction very quickly. It's such a good balance team, and I really appreciate the work they do. I love these patch notes, and I hope you're looking forward to the weekend as much as I am. Anyways, that's enough rambling. I'll see you out there in the Bazaar. Peace.